Hello, everyone is investing in Bitcoin, and now Tesla's gotten into the act as well.
Tesla, in a new filing, says that they've updated their investment policy to provide them with more flexibility to, are you ready for this, be able to buy Bitcoin.
Wondering why they invested and what does that actually mean, and whether you should start investing in Bitcoin as well? Then let's talk about it in this video.
I don't own any Bitcoin.
In this video, I'm going to be talking about the real reason why I think Tesla invested in Bitcoin and why I still think that Bitcoin is a speculative asset class and I'm not investing. Hello and welcome to The Nimble Nomad. My name is Arjun and this is the channel where we talk about money related tips, tricks and hacks to survive and thrive in the UK. So in case you weren't aware, but this last week there was massive news about Tesla and Bitcoin and basically about how they invested in Bitcoin. Now just in case you aren't aware, but basically Tesla invested $1.5 billion of their cash reserves into Bitcoin and amended their policy on investing in crypto assets. $1.5 billion approximates to about 8% of their cash reserves as of their FY20 10K filing.
I mean, is Musk going to price Teslas in actual Bitcoin? I'm selling this for one Bitcoin. All right, 47 grand. Yeah, there you go, right? He can sell the model. He's right around there in some of his models.
So not only did Tesla announce that they invested in Bitcoin, but they've also said they're going to start accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment for new cars that are ordered through the company. Okay, so now that you're all caught up, let's talk about the real reason why Tesla invested in Bitcoin. But before I do want to clarify that I'm not some magician and I don't have a crystal ball.
With this ball, I can see what's going to happen tomorrow.
So anything that I'm sharing on this video is completely based on my own personal thoughts. So let's get into it. So the first thing is Tesla's trying to deflect the negative news and publicity. So Tesla has for a long time been under scrutiny by various car regulators for their build quality and their manufacturing capability. And this week, actually, just on the same day that they announced that they bought Bitcoin, they were actually pulled up by the Chinese regulator for their build quality. Now, if you don't believe me, there was a recent study that was conducted by J.D. Power and they assessed 32 cars and car manufacturers. And believe it or not, Tesla actually ranked the worst out of those 32 cars. So it came in at number 32. Now, if you pull this back at a more macro level, one of the main reasons for Tesla's success is its recent profitability. But the profitability that they recently announced was largely due to their sales and car sales in the Chinese market. So if you really think about it, if the Chinese regulator were to come down even harder and impose additional regulations or even limit the number of sales that Tesla actually makes in the Chinese market, they could actually be under scrutiny whereby their profits could be impacted, which therefore would impact their overall share price. Now, I don't actually know whether this is going to happen, but I do think that there is somebody else who's very famous who also thinks so. Michael Burry, the guy who predicted the 2008 financial crash, has also said the same thing about Tesla and how they're trying to create a smokescreen by investing in Bitcoin versus focusing on the real issues that the company is facing. Reason number 2 is to generate free publicity. I've always thought that Elon Musk has been one of the best marketers of his products in the world.
Sure? Yeah.
If you look at Tesla as a company, they don't actually spend a lot of money on marketing and advertising compared to the rest of the auto and car industry. Actually, the people who are fanboys and fangirls of Tesla, they do the marketing for them, the same way that it works for Apple and any other large company where a product or service is deemed to be amazing. However, this is really unusual in an industry where car sales and the amount of budget that you set aside for marketing and advertising are very closely linked. So in keeping with this theme, Tesla, by simply announcing that they invested cash into Bitcoin, generated millions, if not worth billions, worth of free advertising and publicity. If you think about it, this video itself is some sort of free marketing for Tesla, and people who are watching this video are getting bombarded with the message that Tesla has invested in Bitcoin. Okay, reason number 3 is increase in value for absolutely no additional work. Now this is the final point, but this is completely based on fact. So Tesla's market cap crossed 800 billion to reach an all-time high of 823 billion after they announced that they were going to buy $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. Now, if you think about it, this is absolutely ridiculous. The market valuation or the stock market valued the same company, the same business with the same number of sales at a much higher value for no change in the actual factual underlying data of the financials of the company. The actual technical analysis on an accounting level, they've actually announced that $1.5 billion would be treated as an intangible asset similar to goodwill. Now this basically, if you're not familiar with what it is basically an element on the balance sheet of the company whereby they say that they have some value or they have a value associated with their brand and they tag a number to it. But in theory, you can't actually realize it. I don't know if that actually made sense, but that's basically what an intangible asset is, or goodwill on a balance sheet is. People are actually valuing Tesla for more than the previous day on the basis that actually their cash reserves have dropped into a intangible asset. And even though the value of Bitcoin may have gone up, they haven't actually realized that value of Bitcoin. So irrespective of what the value of Bitcoin is, unless they sell that Bitcoin, the valuation of Tesla is not actually paired with what actually happened in the stock market.
Now, my opinion of Bitcoin is that, I think Bitcoin is probably a good thing, but it's essentially, its main thing will be, I mean, this will probably get quoted here and there, but I think it's primarily going to be a means of doing illegal transactions.
So why I still think Bitcoin is not a good investment. So by nature, I'm actually a very risk-averse person and I don't invest in anything that does not produce anything of value, or the investment asset is something that I fully cannot understand. And with Bitcoin, I honestly think it's a very speculative investment class. So there are reasons specifically why I think that, and let's look at those. So point number 1 is the hyper optimism associated with investing in Bitcoin. So I made a video about in Bitcoin and why I'm not investing in Bitcoin a couple of weeks ago. And I got a lot of hate for the investment and strategy that I was adopting with Bitcoin after I made the video.
If we criticize something that they own because they only want it to go up tomorrow, they feel we are hurting them, and therefore they get very upset about it. If they really like what they own, what difference would it make?
There were 2 common themes where people basically said I was poor or I was stupid. And while I don't actually take any notice of that, I do take notice of the fact that if you're not investing in Bitcoin, other Bitcoin investors are desperately trying to convince you that you should invest in Bitcoin. And to me, that sounds like hyper optimism, and almost to the degree where it's a pyramid scheme that people are trying to get you involved in. My perception of investing in cryptocurrency and the hyper optimism associated with it is further exacerbated with the fact that Dogecoin, which was a cryptocurrency which was created as a joke, also hit all-time highs last week.
You created Dogecoin though. Are you shaking your head now that it's exploded and now receding?
Not really. Like I haven't really been involved closely with Dogecoin for a couple of years now, mostly because it started as a joke, and I think it's important that it stays that way. For me now, I really think of Dogecoin as kind of my barometer for how much Bitcoin mania and crypto mania has kind of taken hold, and how much kind of dumb money is flowing into the space. If a coin that hasn't had development in multiple years can go up to $2 billion, then it's really a sign of the times, and I think that's something that a lot of more people should be paying attention to.
The second reason is the lack of an intrinsic value. So I keep coming back to this again and again and again, which is, what is the intrinsic value of Bitcoin? And I have tried to calculate this myself. I've tried to research and find the answer to this question, but I'm just not able to actually find the answer to this question. And every time I ask somebody who is a Bitcoin investor, I never actually get a clear and concrete answer about this. And how did they actually arrive at that number, whatever they're quoting as the intrinsic value? I've actually also seen an article on Coinbase, which is one of the largest exchanges for Bitcoin, and they themselves have said that, you know, the asset value or the intrinsic value of Bitcoin is difficult to determine because it's such a new asset class. So for me, this is a red signal whereby I don't want to actually invest in Bitcoin because nobody is actually able to tell me how much it's worth. And finally, it's the regulatory protections. So whilst many organizations and companies have started investing in Bitcoin or have made it really easy to procure, invest and trade in Bitcoin and other crypto assets, it's really difficult to actually see the regulators coming up with any sort of clear regulation which protects people who are investing or buying any of these cryptocurrencies. In fact, if you think about it, regulators often work with large governments, and the first thing that governments actually do is they create money and they control the supply and demand of money. So without the regulator and the governments being on side, it looks almost impossible that you would actually have any sort of protection in the near future on Bitcoin or other crypto assets. So in conclusion, all I want to say is I'm by no means some sort of a cryptocurrency expert. I know that there are a lot of people out there, and especially on YouTube, who claim to be cryptocurrency experts. All I can say is that based on my own research, I don't think that Bitcoin is a safe or investment. In fact, I can even say that it's a speculative investment based on what I researched. And I don't actually want to lose any of my hard-earned money on a speculative investment. I find that there are better ways to invest my money, so I'm going to continue using those. And all I can say is, if you had the option, I would urge you to consider looking at those alternative investments over a cryptocurrency if you're looking to invest money. So that's all I wanted to cover in this video. If this video did help you out and any of the information that I shared helped you out, I would really appreciate if you could hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you for sharing your time in watching this video. I shall see you in the next video. Goodbye.